Good evening. Hope everybody's doing well. It was just another one of those days, nothing special. Um, Actually did quite a bit of flying in the sim today, but really, honestly, not on purpose. I had a moment, and it was raining again this morning, so couldn't do my work outside. And so I figured, well, I'll go in. I'll pick out a good flight for me and Charles to fly across the country. Just hop from the west coast to the east coast, something to do. And so I made up a flight plan, and I went into it and to check it out, and my sim started messing up. So I was actually like bummed because I couldn't figure it out no matter what. Once if I tried flying that flight plan, it would start getting real jumpy and skittery, the sim. And I don't know, had to be something to do with the flight sim because later on, um, he had called me and I was still messing with it, and so I didn't do any flight plan. I just went into an airport and we went flying, flew all the way across the country. Never had a skip, a skitter, or nothing. I mean, just flew like butter. So I don't know, but anyway, spent quite a bit of time doing that today. Uh, about it. Other than keeping an eye on the news, pretty much the same story as what has been. Nothing's getting nothing's getting any better, and I don't foresee it to. So it's just kind of it's one of those things. Um, I really do think that we are going to be on a rather consistent slide, and I think that if there's any change to the frequency or severity of the events, it's going to be on the worst side, and it's just what I foresee. I'm not trying to fearmonger or anything like that. No need to be in fear. That's not going to achieve anything. Just keep getting ready as you can. Story stays the same. It really truly stays the same. What matters is how you can react, what you can do, both in the short term, the mid-term, and long term. You need to have a plan for each. So, it's kind of one of those things. Like, I advise against folks going out and spending just tons and tons and tons of money on freeze-dried foods. Unless you're just absolutely loaded and got the extra money to blow. And there's a multitude of reasons. I mean, the fact that most of them aren't the healthiest meals on the planet, for one. High in sodium and stuff like that. Stuff that can actually cause you issues. Things that could, cause you to be bound up, for instance. So you want to be careful with that type of stuff. So I don't recommend people go out and just buy tons and tons and tons of that. And again, it's for a multitude of reasons, not just the fact that it's very expensive. But, I would be doing something, the black bean burger, I think, is really going to be a huge help. But just do whatever you can. I don't know if, by chance, if that black bean is, at a good price or not. I haven't looked in like a really long time, to be honest. And I'm curious. So give me a moment. Do 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 do. It's been like a long time. Should be close to one of them. Yeah, I know. I could just put it in. But I figured it was going to be just right there, and I would just grab it and click. But, yeah. Not so much. Wow, that's crazy. Hang on. That's really got me because it went from I don't know what it's running now to holy cow, I can't find it. Currently right now $19.33 for a black bean burger from Amazon. So currently $19.33. So again, I think personally that's going to be a game changer for us. That's really going to help add to what we already had. Just be doing something, putting back something, because there are some certainties. You're going to need food. You're going to need light. You're going to need clean water. There are certain things that you are going to need that you're not going to be able to go without having. So make sure that you get on top of those things. And that's I mentioned. I think I mentioned on a Facebook post earlier. Even try to spot the little things, the stupid things that wind up not being so stupid and little when you need them. That's like one thing that I've had in my head. I've got a list in my head, a rather large list actually in my head of preps that we need to work towards getting. And there are things that have been on that list literally for years. And I just keep it up there in my head. And so the couple of weeks or so ago, I was like, you know what? There is one thing that's been on my list. Probably it's close to one of the items that's been on the list the longest. And that was a bulk package of fingernail clippers. Simple, right? Simple. That's one of those items that if you don't have one and there are no more to be got from a store, that would suck. I mean, yeah, you'll probably run into one. It's not that big of a deal. But even something that little can make your life that much harder. So, $10 you could get a pack of 20 of them from Amazon. No, they're not super duper high quality. They don't have, 50 attachments with them. They're fingernail clippers. Don't even have a file, yo. But they work. They work well. I just used them the other day. So I grabbed them. I threw a couple in my bug out bag and threw the rest of them. And we've got totes that we've just got random stuff. I call them overflow, right? It's just random stuff. And it's our prepper overflows, We've got a bag. We've got a couple of totes. Anyway, I just threw it in one of the overflow totes. And I know we got them. So also be a good barter item. Because it's one of those things that people don't think about, right? How many people carry fingernail clippers with them everywhere? Ladies, you don't count in this. Most men don't carry purses. So that's the only reason I say that. A lot of women are much more likely to carry things like fingernail clippers with them wherever they go. Men, however, do not, for the most part. Some guys might think, well, I've got my knife, or, I've got a file on my Leatherman. I get it. But nonetheless, that's just one of those items, right? Well, get this. What if the balloon goes up and you don't have a way to get simple things like that you may have had at home? Again, in the right circumstances, that pair of fingernail clippers might be pretty damn valuable to the right person. Now, again, I'm not saying it's going to buy you a home, but you never know. It could buy you a box of shells, might even buy you a gun in the right situation. You have to understand, guns are going to be a dime a dozen. It's ammunition that is going to be something that's, a little bit more hard to find, right? But as far as firearms, after the balloons goes up, they're going to be a dime a dozen. There's a whole lot of firearms out there. Okay? A lot more firearms than there are people. And so when there are less and less and less people, that means there are more and more and more firearms for the less and less people. Plain and simple. Whole lot of guns out there. Believe me, it's also going to be a very, very popular trade and barter item. Firearms. Because again, there'll be a plenty. They will. It'll be ammo that will be in a little bit more short supply. You know, I've said it a million times. I am not pulling some kind of prophetic stuff out of my butt. I'm not looking into a crystal ball. I'm not doing any of that. All I am doing is going by the information from countless events in places where these things have happened. I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer to go look at that stuff because, you know, I'm not a big fan of history, but I would agree that if you want to know the future, you need to know the history. You go look, you will find out real quick like in most of these places, right, where there's civil war, where there's war period, what have you, guns aren't a problem to get a hold of. Pretty easy, actually. So, I'm just going by that. I really don't know what else to tell folks. Just keep getting ready, keep mindful. Understand that a whole lot can change real quick. As I was, actually, as the intro was going, indicator popped up saying that there was another headline there from RT, and sure enough, the UN voted on Ukraine's territorial integrity, and so I'll be including that with the stuff that I cover. I've got, what's it look like, 7 tabs including that one. I couldn't resist, by the way, the show title and the thumbnail. The reason being, they were 2 separate articles. However, on RT, one came right after the other, and but they came honestly in the wrong order. The Army one came out before the new national security strategy came out. So, but nonetheless, it was still pretty funny. And I couldn't miss the opportunity there to put the 2 headlines kind of together, and why not have fun with it? Anyway, let me go ahead and have a sip of coffee first, maybe a vape or 2, then we'll get onto those tabs and... Oh, goodness. Ah, good stuff. Never want to quit drinking coffee. I'm still on my strawberry milk vape juice, so. Getting down, though. Within a few days, I'll be switching flavors. Alright. You guys might want to go along for the ride. Whitehouse unveils national security strategy. Well then, the White House has released its first official national security strategy of Joe Biden's presidency nearly 2 years in, replacing an interim version adopted in March 2021. Introducing the document on Wednesday, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan described the decisive decade to come embodying two fundamental challenges, competing to shape the future of the international order with the new shape of our soldier. No, they didn't say that. And addressing transnational challenges. Oh, it scares me anytime I read that word, or at least that beginning of a word, trans. Anyway, like terrorism, climate change, and pandemics. maybe war just needs to identify as, I don't know, peace. I don't know. The policy codifies the current strained relationship between the U.S., Russia, and China in a way critics have argued sets the stage for a new Cold War, deeming powers that layer I can't say it tonight, authoritarian governance with a, revisionist foreign policy to be Washington's most pressing strategic challenge. The U.S. will effectively compete with China, which is described as the only competitor with both the intent and, increasingly, the capability to reshape the international order, but will limit its interactions with Russia to constraining the dangerous country. I'm just stumbling all over that one. The administration apparently saw no contradiction in following that statement up with a promise to engage countries on their own terms rather than merely viewing the world solely through a competitive lens, though the document explains such a privilege will be available only to those countries willing to constructively address shared challenges within the rules-based international order. In his remarks to reporters, Sullivan attempted to reframe the increasingly strained great power rivalry as friendly, insisting we are not seeking competition to tip over into confrontation or a new Cold War. The administration acknowledges that it has broken down the dividing line between domestic and foreign policy, suggesting its own authority to defend our homeland, our allies, partners, and interests overseas, and our values across the globe, supersedes that of local government. However, the policy stresses that our alliances and partnerships around the world are our most important strategic asset, and pledges to deepen those by injecting more democracy into its foreign relations. Yeah, that's exactly what we need, is a bigger democracy injection. But this time, can you use a little bit of KY, please? It's starting to hurt. Russian President Vladimir Putin had remarked in such a speech earlier this month that the U.S. instead bullied the nations they cynically referred to as the equals and allies into submission with the law of the fist. Oh, hell no, they're gonna be fisting. No, I'm out. While the document makes repeated references to strengthening, modernizing, and otherwise I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry. I'm absolutely not sorry. I'm sorry for not being professional. No, I'm not. I don't give a rat's ass. Anyway, continuing on, and otherwise expanding the U.S. military, the administration hints at battle fatigue in the Middle East, pledging to empower our allies and partners to advance regional peace and prosperity, while reducing the resource demands the region makes on the United States over the long term. Biden officially ended the U.S. longest ever war when he declared an end to Washington's engagement in Afghanistan last year, though the pullout be glad when they do finally pull out, was derided from both sides of the political aisle as poorly thought out, inconsiderate of local allies, and ultimately self-defeating as the Taliban regained power within a month. What can I do? They give me gold like that, I gotta go with it. I ought to come up with my own version of sunglasses for the nuclear apocalypse. That's what I ought to do. The Watchman apocalyptic glasses. My security dude down here looking for attention and loving because it never gets any. U.S. Army to update weight rule for troops, says the media. The U.S. Army will reportedly cancel weight limits for its troops, letting obese soldiers stay in the service and continue to be eligible for promotions if they score well enough on their physical fitness tests. The rule change was revealed on Wednesday by the Army's highest-ranking enlisted leader, Sergeant Major Michael Grinston, according to Military.com. I'm just curious if he's one of them that wears a dress or not. Speaking to soldiers at an Army conference in Washington, Grinston said, "If you score high on the ACFT, you should be good." Other changes to policies relating to weight are being considered and will be finalized by June. Grindstone, I have no idea what the hell it is. It hasn't been decided when the rule changes will go into effect. The Army has historically required weigh-ins at least every 6 months and has barred troops who are considered too fat from reenlistment, promotion, transfers, or eligibility to attend professional schools. The rules changes comes on the heels of the Army falling 25% short of its recruiting goal for its 2022 fiscal year, ended on September 30th. Despite enlistment bonuses being raised to as high as $50,000, they also come amid America's obesity epidemic. More than 42% of U.S. adults are obese. Wow. 42%? Wow. Anyway, and nearly 71% of Americans born after 1997 are ineligible for military service. Wow. That is something that you need to think about, ladies and gentlemen. Holy cow. Wow. Man, well, it says most commonly because they are too fat to qualify, according to Pentagon data. What I'm looking at, what I'm seeing when I say that, is I am seeing if we go into combat, if we go to war, they don't have that big of a pool on the young end of things to pull from. Because that's what they typically do. They start at the young end. They go like, I guess, 18 to 25 or whatnot, and they start pulling them. And then they'll start pulling older and older and older, right? Well, right off the bat, just right out of the gate, we've got a small pool to deal with. And then when you get to the adults, regular adults, 42%, just off the top right there as well. Haxafu says put the illegal immigrants in. They're in good shape. I actually think they have done that, if I'm not mistaken. And if I'm wrong, someone please correct me. But I think they've done that in the past. You know, basically serving was a path to enlistment, was a path to citizenship. I would imagine that's still the way they're doing things. I don't know if you'll see the prison population. Now, I don't know about that. Now, I don't know if they can do that. If they could make prisoners go fight in war. I don't know that they could. Because that's kind of messed up, man. If you're in prison because you wrote a bunch of bad checks or some stupid, crazy stuff like that, man, you shouldn't have to go put your life on the line for Joe Biden's oil business. Yeah, I mean, that to me, it's just insane. Insane. So, yeah, I mean, this is what it is. It doesn't surprise me. Absolutely doesn't surprise me. I don't know what we're gonna do. We really, when you take a step back and you realistically and soberly look at this nation, take off any rose-colored glasses, we're in some deep, deep trouble. I mean, some of it is a matter of things that are being put on us, right? And other ends of it are just, some of it's things we've done to ourselves. Well, in fact, a lot of it we've done to ourselves. Some of it, and on our level of in our homes, but a good part of it in the government and whatnot. But we have a long, dark road. There is no doubt of that. Okay, this is what was coming out right as the intro was playing. I'm glad you're so happy. Sheesh, child. UN votes on Ukraine's territorial integrity. The UN General Assembly has adopted a non-binding resolution accusing Moscow of an attempted illegal annexation and calling on member states to ignore the results of referendums in 4 former eastern Ukrainian regions to join Russia. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this all kind of stuff went on once before when it was Crimea. And if I'm not mistaken, they went through all of this and, the UN said, no, it's not legal or whatever, but, Russia did is what they wanted anyway. And it really didn't matter what the UN thought. So, and I'm pretty sure we're probably in the same boat here. Wednesday's 143-5 vote followed the General Assembly's refusal on Monday to use secret ballots, as requested by Russia, amid pressure from the U.S. and its allies to join them in condemning Moscow for the accessions. Russia's UN ambassador Vasily Nebenzia had argued that for many countries it may be very difficult to express their views publicly. Despite that pressure, 4 nations joined Russia in voting against the UN resolution, including Belarus, Syria, Nicaragua, and North Korea. Among those 35 abstaining were China and India, as well as South Africa, Pakistan, Thailand, Cuba, Vietnam, Armenia, and Algeria. 35 abstained. So, that's notable. That is notable. Before launching its military operation in Ukraine in February, Russia recognized the sovereignty of 2 Donbass regions. Well, this just goes into the history of it. I'm not going to... here we go. This is new. The UNGA condemned those plebiscites, I guess, as illegal, saying the 4 regions are temporarily occupied because of Russian aggression, in violation of Ukraine's territorial integrity and sovereignty. Wednesday's resolution calls on all nations and the UN to refuse recognition of the accessions. Moscow argued the referendums were only the only legitimate way for people to exercise their right for self-determination and be protected from their former government. In a recent speech, and by the way, I would agree with that, in a recent speech, Putin cited an inherent right sealed in Article 1 of the UN Charter, which directly states the principle of equal rights and self-determination of peoples. So, hang on a second. I have never lived over there. And I'm sure there's a whole lot that I don't know. But I have looked a little bit into what Ukraine was like. And, of course, what Russia was like. And if I had to pick one of the 2 countries to live in, it would undoubtedly, I can't even say it, it would undoubtedly be Russia. Hands down. The Ukrainian government is horrid, to put it lightly. I mean, you think the U.S. is corrupt. Holy cow. Not only that, but it is literally a neo-Nazi government. They're Nazis. Period. I'm not talking about the people of Ukraine. Absolutely not. The people of Ukraine are just like us. They're just people. They want to be left alone. You know, we damn well don't agree with what our government's doing. Well, most of them don't agree with what their government's doing either, but they're not in control. Newsflash, neither are we. We're all just along for the ride, apparently. You know, I understand the argument that, you know, these votes could be misleading. It could be rigged. Yeah, I would say we probably know a thing or two about that here in the United States. But it would be nice if we had an international body that actually cared what the people wanted. Imagine that. Why wouldn't the UN and why wouldn't NATO want to ask these people themselves, hey, where do you want to live? Is there a reason? Is there a reason here that you want to be with Russia and not Ukraine? But it's not. From the first moment, they had their minds made up. No, can't be part of Russia. Why can't it? What do the people want? That's what matters. It doesn't matter what Putin wants. It doesn't matter what Zelensky wants. It doesn't matter what you want. It doesn't matter what Biden wants or Hunter wants or any of them. It matters what the citizens of that region want. And if they want to be with Russia, then damn well let them be with Russia. And that should be protected. That should be defended. But that's not what's important to the world's nations. Not the largest nations. Power, control, money, resources. To hell with us. I think they've made that pretty clear. Why don't, rush to jump to take a side? That's why I don't let things just tap dance on my emotions, I guess. I don't know, When Russia invaded Ukraine, I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, it's not that I blew it off. It's not that I feel that way because I just don't happen to live there. But what am I supposed to do? I mean, that's the thing I don't understand. Why does there have to be such an emotional reaction? Why aren't people asking questions? That's the things that I wonder. Anyway, shift to gears. NASA reveals planetary defense test results. We can we can defend the planet from rogue asteroids, but we can't defend the border. America's space agency has successfully altered the trajectory of an asteroid, deliberately smashing a spacecraft into the object as part of a historic planetary defense test. NASA unveiled the results of its Double Asteroid Redirection Test, or DART, on Tuesday, showing that the DART craft was able to significantly change the orbit of its target, the asteroid Dimorphos, after a 14,000 mile per hour collision in space. It's kind of slow, really. I'm kidding. All of us have a responsibility to protect our home planet. After all, it's the only one we have. Well, I don't know. Depends. I was going to buy some stock of the moon myself, but NASA Administrator Bill Nelson said in a statement, this mission shows that NASA is trying to be ready for whatever the universe throws at us. It shows that NASA. Doesn't mean they are, just shows. NASA has proven that we are serious as a defender of the planet. So please keep the fund money coming. This is a watershed moment for planetary defense and all of humanity. Wait. I'm starting to hear the Space Force theme. Demonstrating commitment from NASA's exceptional team and partners from around the world. That's what we need. We need a Space Force theme, and it's got to be a good one. Ahead of the mission, NASA set out to change the asteroid's orbit period by at least 73 seconds, deeming that the target for a successful test. The DART spacecraft ultimately changed Dimorphos' orbit by 32 minutes, surpassing the minimum benchmark by more than 25 times. The DART research team will continue to collect data from the ground-based observatories around the world, while the Hubble Space Telescope and newer James Webb Space Telescope have both captured numerous images of the asteroid and its companion, Didymos, for further analysis. Now, what happens if they didn't realize that they just put it directly in Earth's orbit for its next pass? That would suck. Going forward, NASA said scientists would work to gather more information about Dimorphos' physical properties, its chemical composition, you'll find out when it hits us, and the characteristics of its surface, among other things. They will also study the ejecta, or debris, thrown from the object after the DART collision, hoping that that will reveal more clues about similar asteroids should Earth ever find itself in the crosshairs. Oh, come on, you're all itching for it. They all want to try to pull off the real-life version. I highly recommend that you use somebody other than Bruce Willis, though. He's probably not getting around so well anymore. I don't know. Denzel hadn't done anything in a while, had he? Maybe he could go on an asteroid mission on a movie. There you go. Denzel and, oh, damn it. Help me out, hun. Big black dude. Can't say 3 words without MF being one of them. Sam. Yeah, Samuel L. Jackson. See? I'm telling you, man. Telling you, whatever it is that's wrong with me, it's a thing. It's a thing. Stupidest stuff. I can't, it's just, it's crazy. Russian gas giant offers grim prediction for EU. Residents of European cities could freeze during the cold peak of winter, the CEO of Russian energy major Gazprom, Alexei Miller, has warned. He was speaking at the annual Russian Energy Week event on Wednesday. According to his estimates, Europe may lack about 800 million cubic meters of gas per day, which represents a third of the EU's total consumption. In the worst-case scenario set out by Miller, gas storage facilities in the region will only be 5% full by March. No one can guarantee that Europe will survive the winter with the current amount of gas reserves, he said, adding that even if the bloc manages to scramble through its heating season, the question is what will happen with the uploading for the next winter. Gazprom CEO reminded that Russia used to export between 0.6 to 1.7 billion cubic meters of gas per day to Europe in winter. Miller called the idea of gas rationing, which Europe is set to introduce, doubtful, pointing at a lack of an implementation mechanism. In other words, ways to force people to conserve. In September, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen asked EU member nations to introduce mandatory energy curbs, calling on the bloc to flatten the curve of demand. Last week, the International Energy Agency announced that the EU will have to reduce its demand by up to 13% in the face of unprecedented risks to gas supplies this winter. Although the EU has already filled its storage to 88%, the IEA said that 90% is required should there be further disruptions to supplies, the late winter cold spell, and a lack of LNG. So to be honest, even with this headline and all that, it doesn't sound like they're that bad off. If they can be reasonable with it. That's a big if. I don't see people doing it, What are you going to do? Make a law that you have to have a Wi-Fi capable thermostat that they can have control over? I don't know what to tell them in our case. They can go fly a kite because it costs twice as much to use that furnace or close to it, to use the furnace that's in this place, as what it costs us to use oil-filled space heaters with one of the thermostat things like I use. And I have to make that a very big but, okay? For those that don't know, they make these thermostats, the wireless thermostats that you can buy, and what it is you set it wherever. You can actually hang it on the wall, you can set it on a shelf, whatever, and it's just a wireless thermostat, and they make an outlet that it connects to. You plug the outlet into the wall and plug a heater, a space heater, into it, and then you crank the heater up all the way high, all the way hot, and you let that thermostat turn on and off the heater, which, again, does it to a plug. Well, anyway, we've got 3 of those, and that's how we heat this place, because it's monumentally cheaper than the furnace. The place we were prior to this one was a very old place. I think it was built in like 1900, no exaggeration, and very drafty. Old windows, you know the whole 9 yards. And they did get new windows put in and stuff like that, but still, air came up through the floors and all of that. It's a very, very drafty place. And so that's when we initially went to these heaters, and they do much better. They did better there, and like I say, it costs about half as much to heat this place. It's still expensive to heat this place, but not near as much as that damn thing. That thing. It's insane. We were going to try it last year, and, we used it for about a half a month, and we saw the power bill after like a half a month, and it was like, holy cow, that was enough of that. I pulled these things out and put them back up. So, let's see. Diesel prices threaten global recession, says Bloomberg. Diesel prices in the EU and the US are showing their sharpest increase in months adding to inflationary pressures and heightening the risk of global recession, Bloomberg reported on Wednesday. Earlier this week, Europe's benchmark diesel price approached $180 a barrel. In the U.S., prices in California exceeded $190, while in New York Harbor they were close to $170. The spike in diesel prices is driving inflation ahead of winter and raising the prospect of supply disruptions, particularly in the EU, which will start enforcing its embargo on Russian oil and petrochemicals in February 2023. Higher diesel prices have the potential to create even stronger inflationary pressures, especially if the current price spike is sustained, adding significant downside risk to demand and increasing the chances of a global recession, Mark Williams, research director for short-term oils at Wood Mackenzie, told Bloomberg. Strikes at French refineries, which have halted fuel supplies and led to diesel shortages, are another factor driving up prices. On Tuesday, French authorities warned they would be they would be forced to intervene if energy industry workers refused to end their strikes, which have left almost a third of the country's fuel stations short on supplies. In September, analysts warned that the looming EU embargo on Russian oil would continue to inflate diesel prices across the bloc, while currently more than a third of the fuel keeps arriving from Russia. When the ban comes into force, Europe will have to replace Russian diesel either by ramping up its own production or importing from countries such as Saudi Arabia, India, or the U.S. at a much higher price. I'm telling you, these countries are doing everything they can to run themselves into the ground. Oh, man. One moment. Alrighty. Phew, babes. We're on the last tab. North Korea shares details of latest missile test. North Korea has claimed another victory in proving its nuclear warfare capability, saying that 2 cruise missiles that it launched on Wednesday successfully reached their target 2,000 kilometers away. The 2 missiles flew above the Yellow Sea between the Korean peninsula and China and were in the air for nearly 3 hours before they clearly hit their unidentified target, according to a report by Pyongyang's state-run KCNA media outlet. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un oversaw the launches and expressed great satisfaction with the test results. Kim highly appreciated the high reaction capabilities of our nuclear combat forces, which proved again their full preparedness for actual war to bring the enemies under their control at a blow through the unconditional, mobile, precise, and powerful counterstrike by any weapon system, KCNA said. He called the launches a clear warning to North Korea's enemies and a verification of the absolute reliability and combat capacity of our state's war deterrent. At a range of 2,000 kilometers, the cruise missiles fired on Wednesday could travel nearly 4 times the distance from Pyongyang to Busan, the major city at South Korea's southeastern tip. The missiles can reach well beyond any target in Japan. Just last week, North Korea conducted its long-range missile test on record, its longest range, firing the projectile over Japan on a 4,600-kilometer flight. The country's Hwasong-17 ballistic missile reportedly has a range of at least 15,000 kilometers, easily within reach of U.S. targets. Kim said he aims to continue expanding the operational sphere of North Korea's nuclear forces to resolutely deter any crucial military crisis and war crisis at any time and completely take the initiative in it. Wednesday's launches marked the latest in a series of tests of Pyongyang's strategic weaponry, that began on September 25th. Kim said the tests were done to ensure the readiness of North Korea's nuclear forces to wipe out potential aggressors. One of those exercises simulated the loading of tactical warheads into a missile silo hidden beneath the reservoir. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol warned on Monday that the region faces a grave security reality amid Pyongyang's nuclear saber-rattling. North Korea rejected a proposal by Yoon in August to give up its nuclear weapons in exchange for economic aid from Seoul. On Monday, Kim ruled out peace talks with South Korea or the U.S., saying his enemies have still been talking about dialogue and negotiations while posing military threats to us. And I get it. I mean, it's their own country. That's what I don't understand about a lot of what's going on in foreign policy. Why are we trying to interfere and cause problems for other nations? Don't give me the, oh, we gotta stop them before they cause us problems thing. Awful big excuse for a whole lot of corruption. I believe nations should be allowed to defend themselves. I don't believe that other nations should be messing with nations as long as they aren't actually doing horrible, harmful things to their people. Not propaganda, not a country of poverty because of all kinds of sanctions and all, because of American boots on their necks, like Venezuela, just as an example, and many other countries. It pisses me off, right? You can't sit there and tell me about how this type of economy or this country, never succeeds and all of that. Look at how terrible they're doing when you have these large nations that are putting all kinds of sanctions and doing all kinds of economic things to these other countries. How in the hell can you sit there and look at their economic situation and say that that's their own doing? No, it's not. No, it's not. They're not allowed to have their own doing because you've got all these nations stepping down on them. How could we know whether or not their system works or not? They're not being left alone to try it. Doesn't make sense to me. Then again, I don't have an obsession with controlling other people. So, anywho, let's see. Run through some headlines here. NASA reveals planetary defense test results. Biden clarifies nuclear Armageddon warning. Yeah. Clarified it by saying you meant it. Price rises in EU state breaks records. India resists push to cut Russia ties. Leak found on key Russian oil pipeline to Germany, says Polish operator. Moscow extends food embargo. Russia names chief suspect in Crimea bridge attack. Ukrainian terrorist plot foiled in border region, says Russia. Biden vows consequences for Saudi Arabia over OPEC decision. Yeah, right. You won't even make them pay consequences for Khashoggi, so don't give me that. U.S. comments on deliveries of air defense systems to Ukraine. Ukraine angered U.S. with Moscow car bombing, says Politico. Energy crisis blamed as Sweden scraps sport showpiece. Russia has changed its tactics in Ukraine, says senior official. Most Poles want U.S. nukes. Austria sounds alarm over economy. G20 host nation warns against Russian oil price cap. Putin hints at culprits behind Nord Stream sabotage. Beijing taking a page from Ukraine conflict, says Taiwan. Trump is hope for Ukraine peace, says leader of EU state. I really hope he doesn't run. Russia not to blame for EU households stockpiling firewood, says Putin. Well, they're really not. Truss cabinet hastily rewrites posture on China. Let's see. Gazprom CEO makes grim predictions for EU. Ukraine needs more air defense systems, says NATO. Well, hell, I do too. Ukraine halts electricity supply for nuclear power plant. Ukrainian city cancels Elon Musk. I'm sure he's really concerned. Putin ponders EU's energy future. U.S. seeks to extradite Helena Bonham Carter's cousin for flouting sanctions. You flouter. American gas inferior to Russia, says Putin. Soviet Russia, we even have better gasoline. Pushkin monument demolished in Kiev. Kiev receives first unit of German air defense system. Diesel price jumps on low stockpiles and French strikes, says Bloomberg. Oh, this is important news. Kanye West is canceled again. Make sure you put that on your calendar. Biden sets condition for meeting with Putin at G20 summit. Well, that's the condition. He's got to be there. Energy crisis in Europe will last for years, says Hungary. Wait a minute. I bet the condition is he will speak to Putin if Putin can remember who he is. That's probably what that's about. A German lawmaker danced on Holocaust monument, says ambassador. U.S. targets Russian aluminum, says Bloomberg. EU to send fact-finding mission to Armenia. U.S. congressman to visit Taiwan, or visit Taiwan, as in, I guess they're there now. I still think that they are sneaking back equipment to make chips. I would bet it that every time that there's a diplomat that flies over to Taiwan, I bet you they take that aircraft and they take it to a nice hangar. And while that aircraft is in the hangar, I'm sure it is loaded up with chip-making equipment. I would bet about anything on that. CNN asked Biden about possible charges against his son. Macron urges Putin to return to the table on Ukraine. Let's see. Alex Jones ordered to pay nearly $1 billion. That's over the whole Sandy Hook thing. That's just, it's all crazy. Crazy. Changes for those on Social Security. AP News gives the latest update on that. I guess tomorrow they're supposed to say exactly what it is they're going to do. North Korea shares details of late. Oh, I have already covered that. And that is that's all of it. That is the headlines. Sweet. I can run around the house, scream with my hands in the air. I gotta go get the trash cans, so I'll make it entertaining. Nah, wouldn't work out well. I'd start to scream and then I'd start coughing and hacking, and it wouldn't be any fun. Anyway, I'm getting out of here. God willing, we'll be back tomorrow for another one. Be our Friday, thank goodness, right? Right? Is it Wednesday? Yeah, right. Okay. Making sure I wasn't screwed up. I didn't get my mystery package today. I guess it'll be here tomorrow, so. Anyway, I'm getting out of here. Like I said, God willing, we'll be back tomorrow night. I hope you all have a good one. Thanks for coming. Hope to see you tomorrow. As always, God bless you. We love you. Be one with your spirit. And shalom.